Today I'm going to talk about the key to trading profitability, and what I'm going to talk about first is drawdowns. So what is a drawdown? So it's a percent of capital that has been lost either in an open position or closed position in the account. And this is measured from some sort of starting point. It could be the beginning of the year or beginning of the month or when the account was opened. So it's a certain calendar date, or it could be calculated from a high water mark. So a high water mark is the highest amount of capital that has been reached. So for example, a high water mark may have been last Tuesday or 3 months ago. So it's the highest point of account P&L. And then you take the percentage down to the lowest point. So it's from a peak to trough. So for example, looking at my earnings edge account, we can see here that the account started with $5,000 at the beginning of the year, and there were no positions in the account. Now, so that could be a starting point. That's a really good starting point to see what the drawdowns were. Now, I'm going to go over why it's important to take a look at drawdowns and how they affect the account. So for example, we started at $5,000 here, then we had the lowest point on January 12th down to $4,097. So this is down $903, and the account is down 18% at that point. And we also had, so that's kind of a starting point for a drawdown. Then we had the high water mark, the highest the account had ever been, 6,660 there, down to 44.38. So that was down $2,222, or down 33%. So you can see there's been some pretty good drawdowns, 33% here. So let's talk about where the account is now, that 56.57. So why are drawdowns important? I mean, that is really the key, because you want to keep your drawdowns to a minimum. And why is that? Well, I'm going to go over that right now. So if you started, let's say at the lowest point, you started here at $4,097 and you got all the way to 56.57, that's making about $1,560. And that is a 38%. You had to go from here, this low point, all the way to here. That's a 38% return to get there. So that's kind of far, that's kind of high. Now let's say you start at $5,000 and you go until we are here, 56.57. That's only a 13% return. So how much harder is it to go to get a 38% return versus getting a 13% return? So just think, we're comparing a 38% return is what you need versus a 13% return. So the drawdowns were 18%. But to get to where we are today, it took 38% from there compared to only 13% from $5,000. So you can see how significant it is to keep the drawdowns to a minimum. Now looking at the Safe Wheel account, this is a system that I give away for free every Monday morning at 7:15 a.m. I do a live stream. But here's the account here. So this started with $5,000 with no positions in the account at the beginning of the year. And you can see that the drawdowns are very minimal. There really wasn't even a drawdown starting from the starting point. So we have to take a drawdown here. The highest drawdown was from this peak here, $6,056, and it went down to $58.36. So it went down $219, or down about 3.6%. So how hard is it going to be to get back to this high water mark if you're only down 3.6%? I mean, it's only going to be another 3.5% to get you back to where you need. You're not going to need that crazy 38%. So keeping these drawdowns, that is the key to a successful trading system. And I wanted to make that point because one of the things that the Premier Level 5 does is it keeps the drawdowns to a minimum. Therefore, there's not very much to recover. So for example, I have some charts here, and I'm going to use the synthetic dragon as an example because I have hard data, hard numbers with that. So let me get into that. Okay, so again, I'm going to be talking about the synthetic dragon, but the Premier Level 5 has very similar characteristics, but it's not, the numbers won't be exact, but I want to make a point about drawdowns and certain market environments. So one of the major points I make in my book is that when selling option premium, there are 4 types of markets that need to be addressed, and the goal is to mitigate risk and create returns in all 4 market types. So number 1 is the bull, number 2 is the sideways market, those are self-explanatory. Number 3 is the grind down, and number 4 is the crash. So the difference between a grind down and a crash is that a crash, the volatility spikes super high really quickly, as opposed to a grind down where the market just kind of goes down. The volatility does rise, but not as quick as in a crash. So let's look at these markets. So in a bull market, you can see here, this particular bull market started from, this is all data from 2008 to present, by the way, 3909 to 43010. So about a year and a month. And you can see that the S&P went up about almost 80%, but the synthetic dragon did about 37%. So you can see there were 8 bull markets, and you can see here that in all 8 bull markets, the synthetic dragon was outperformed by the S&P 500. So thinking about this, how could the synthetic dragon or the Premier Level 5, how could it outperform the market if these 8 bull markets, you can just see here how much the S&P outperformed? How could overall the synthetic dragon outperform? So let me show you the risk curve for the overall performance. So here's the overall risk curve, and you can see how the synthetic dragon outperformed overall compared to the S&P 500. So looking at that, how does that happen? You saw how the synthetic dragon was being vastly outperformed in the bull markets. Well, let's take a look. Well, we had one significant sideways market, which was in the first half of 2015. You can see the market went up 1.4, but the synthetic dragon did 7.5. So you can see here, as an example, that if you have a system that outperforms in a sideways market, then your starting point is much better when you compete in that bull market. Now looking at the grind down markets, look at the grind down market. Here's 2008 for about a year. Look at the performance here of 37% versus being down 55, where you can see there was no 13% drawdown or 17% drawdown, 19% drawdown, only 3%. You see how there was these 6 grind down markets where the particular system that I'm talking about, it doesn't really matter what system I'm talking about, but if that system can outperform, it has a better jumping point when those bull markets do come. It could not outperform in the bull market, but it's all about keeping those drawdowns low, because that will give you overall performance. Here's a crash market. There were 3 crash markets. You can see how the market was down 10%, up 8, down 8.5, up 1.6, down 33, up 7. This is the key to outperforming the S&P. Even though it was vastly outperforming that bull market, overall, if you can keep the drawdowns low, that is the key to outperformance. That is the key to having a system that performs really well. So I hope I made my point today that how do you have a system that works really well and performs well? The key is keeping your drawdowns down to a minimum. Now, by the way, I have 2 free courses available in order to help people learn how to trade options. And I believe trading options is where you're really going to find an edge. I don't believe you're going to find an edge just picking the direction of a stock. One of the courses is an actual trading system with black and white rules that has been statistically proven profitable through backtests. And you can see the link in the description below for the 2060 course. And if you're brand new to options, I've created a beginner's options course for free called Options from Day One. And there's a link in the description for that course as well.